Hey guys, it's Woody here over at USA Made Blade and just coming to you from the shop tonight. We've had a lot of requests to do this and I've been very hesitant for multiple reasons. But anyway, we've had a lot of requests to show us, to show the breakdown or how we break down a knife. I'm sure everybody does it differently. I watched a few videos trying to prep for this and thinking about it. And you know, we're just going to show the way we do it. So it doesn't mean it's the right way, doesn't mean it's the wrong way, but it's just how we do it. This is specifically towards ZT knives, which we do a lot of anodizing on, a lot of customizing on. So we take a lot of these knives apart every day. So to start, we're doing a ZT0452CF. This is not the first attempt we had at this video. I'm going to move some stuff out of the way here. And we did another video with a 562 CF and realized after we made the whole video that the angles were, or the zoom was way too close. So now we're going to start with a 452 CF. I've got to anodize one anyway. And the first thing I want to show you as we start this video is that this is brand new out of the box. This has never been opened. And one of the ways you can typically tell is when you get to this bubble plastic here, there's still a lot of stickiness on that. You'll notice as soon as I open it and put it back, it comes open a lot easier. So the other thing, you've got your little rust preventer in there. So anyway, get the knife out of the box. I always like to make sure, looking at it before I even start anything, that everything's dead centered, it's flipping well, there's no blade play, there's no out of the box problems with the knife. So that's the first thing I like to check out. And then from there, one of the reasons I chose the 562 CF first and went ahead and decided for the second video to do the 452 CF is because of the fact that the pivot is screwed on both sides. So like I said, I watched a few videos, set that in there. And guys, I'm doing this backwards, so work with me here and understand there might be a few mishaps doing this video. But watching other videos that other people have done, I've seen some things that concerned me a little bit. So I wanted to show that it was new out of the box, and I wanted to have something that was definitely was screwed on both sides. Before we get into it any further with that, I do want to give a shout out. We are exclusively use Weehaw bits. They're the best in the industry. You know, I'm not trying to just sell you crap because we don't sell them. So if you're going to start taking apart knives, just invest the money in Weehaw. There's no doubt they're just that good. You're going to strip a lot less screws if you do it. So to start for me, I like to start by basically undoing all the screws or just loosening all the screws. ZT pretty much uses exclusively Torx bits on their knives. They do have a few knives that don't, or a few knives coming out that don't. Torx T8, T6, and T10, sorry that was in a weird order, are the Torx heads that they use the most. For the purpose of this, I don't think, if I'm remembering correctly, there are any T10, so we're going to use T8 and T6 on these. So anyway, I'm going to start with the pivot, and I like to get one side in and nice and secured inside the pivot or inside the screw hole, and then get my other side in. Like I said, I'm doing this a little backwards, so please be patient with me. So get both sides in, and I actually pull the knife up off the table just a little bit. And now one of the reasons, and I didn't go back to it, but I'll go to it in just a second. So once I've broken that Loctite, it's not too difficult to unscrew. But one of the things that I've seen, and I'm screwing this back together just so I can show you, I've seen a lot of videos where people say, hey, just put your finger on the other side and unscrew this puppy. And guys, I've already broken that Loctite. This isn't something, I'm using my thumb, but that's not something that typically happens. I can't just put my screw on here, or my thumb on here and unscrew this thing. So you're gonna more than likely, for most ZTs specifically, not other knives, but for most ZTs and a lot of better quality knives, you're gonna, if it's screwed on both sides, you're going to need 2 bits that fit that side. So from here, now that I've broken the Loctite on the pivot, which is the only thing that is Loctited, I'm going to work my way through the screws. So the internal lock bar, I'm just going to loosen that up a little bit. Now on the pocket clip, these are T6, so I'm going to switch over. And guys, on T6 especially, I like to make sure I've got a good firm grasp with the bit inside of there and make sure it feels good and tight. And just loosen it up a little. And then do the same on the other side. Now, this might sound crazy to some of you guys. Oh, I've already dropped out a screw there. I'm sorry, I went over here. On the handle screws, on the tie side, I'm going to start on the presentation side. And I know that sounds crazy, but first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen it just a little in case I want to break the knife the whole way down, which is not my intent in this video. But I'm going to loosen both sides on the presentation side just a little. And then I'm going to turn around and I'm going to tighten them right back up. And the reason for that is that that's going to save me the trouble of having to use pliers or anything else or something to hold those on the other side, and it keeps these from spinning. So I don't have to set the knife down and work a T6 from both sides. So once everything is loose, which it all is now, I'm going to feel much more comfortable going ahead and taking the knife apart. You do not want to, the reason you check every screw is you really don't want to sit back and deal with a strip screw. It's quite a nightmare to deal with. Or you're sending it off to ZT and getting them to replace it. So I'll go ahead and break everything, take everything apart. With all this said, and while I'm thinking about it, you're going to notice that I didn't do anything to protect the blade. Guys, I've done tons of these. Now, knowing the fact I'm saying this, I'm probably going to cut myself. But if it's your first time doing it, or you're not comfortable doing it, or it's not something you've done often, sorry, I'm very particular about keeping my screws separate. Definitely cover the blade with some tape. Do something to protect your hand. Don't just go into this thinking that, I'm very used to this. I carry the knife in my hand very lightly. But it can shoot apart in your hand, and if that blade comes running through, you're going to be in some trouble. So from here, we undo the pivot. And now here's what I want to get to with another thing I've seen in a lot of videos, is I've seen a lot of videos where they get everything taken apart, and then they just open the knife and pull the scale off. Guys, I've taken thousands of ZTs apart, thousands, and I would say that happens maybe 3 to 5% of the time. So from here, what you want to do, I know some people like to put a flathead screwdriver in here and work to pop off the scale. But what I like to do is just start at the back end and pull apart. And then once you're apart, I like to gently work that scale off and just applying a little bit of pressure. If it's being difficult, which this one isn't, but I'm going to show you anyway, I will close it, set it flat, and then work it while it's about 3/4 open, and it just comes apart nice and easy. So here you're going to have your washer for your racers to run against, your washers for the inside, and so everything comes apart, pivot comes out. This is another thing that's interesting. Sometimes your stop pin doesn't want to come out. I'll use, if you need to get it off for anodizing or something like that, I've had to go as far as using pliers. But one trick that I found is put it in the freezer and then pull it back up and let it warm up a little bit, and you can pop those right off. And then we'll show you another trick with that in a minute. The next thing is that if you're looking to anodize, or if for some reason your internal lock engagement is acting up or whatever, and they send you a new one, internal lock bar stabilizer and lock insert. If it's acting up, steel lock insert is acting up, and they've sent you a new one, or you need to replace it, or you need to get it off for anodizing. I've seen a lot of different methods on this, but I think ours works the best. I'm not sure what everybody else does, but I've seen screwdrivers put in here, and hammers being used, and people just trying to finger these things off and do all sorts of crazy stuff. So for starters, we're going to go ahead and get the screw out. And then what we're going to do is we're going to jump away from this, and I'm going to show you guys what I do to get these off. And I'm going to, in between, I'm going to stick this in the freezer and then pull it back out after a little bit of time, and pull our stop pin off as well. So I'll be back, show you my little trick on that, and then we'll finish up. All right, guys, we're back. I wanted to point out one other thing before I move forward. On the stop pin on the knife, one of the other things that you can do is put a little WD-40 around it, and just let it sit for a few minutes, and usually that helps loosen it up. There are several other things that you can do, but it really just depends upon how hard it's in there. These are press fitted, and sometimes they can be pretty tough to get out. Speaking of things that can be a little tough as far as getting apart, probably the biggest thing that people are surprised or learn from us when they come in the shop and see us taking knives apart is how to get this steel lock bar insert out. So this has double function. It also works as your over travel stop or lock bar stabilizer. And I've seen people push them out and try and get their fingers in there and using a screwdriver and trying to wedge them out. What we found works the best and is the easiest method for this is just to knock it out. So sometimes this can take one try, and sometimes this can take 20. So I advise getting a hard surface, something that's not going to damage your knife. So a piece of wood or you can cover it if you feel like it's going to damage anything, but this titanium knocking into a piece of wood is not going to hurt a darn thing. And then basically just take the knife and put it below, so your steel lock bar insert is here. We're going to hit just an inch or two below it, and sorry, I got to hold it. And guys, you'll see on here, it's starting to come off. And sometimes this is a good example on the 5.62 CF we did in the previous video that we couldn't show. It came off in one hit, and there it went. So it just popped off. Luckily this one didn't go flying across the room, and there you go. So that's basically how you break it down and get it to where it's just basically clean titanium. And that's what we do. That's how we do it. So guys, if you're going to start taking apart your knives, make sure you have the right bits. Make sure that you're safe and covering the blade and being very careful with your hands. And that's about it. I hope you'll check out all of our ZT knives at usamadeblade.com. And as always, folks, we appreciate you watching.